Hello everyone. In this presentation we're going to take a look at the last type of pictorial drawing called perspective pictorials. You may have seen this type of drawing before, you may have done this type of drawing before if you've taken an art class in high school maybe. This is probably the least technical and most artistic type of communication that we can use to represent what our product is really going to look like. When it comes to a perspective drawing, the goal isn't to necessarily draw something that's dimensionally accurate, but it's something that's drawn to look as realistic as possible. This might be something that you'd use in an engineering presentation more so than a technical drawing that would be used maybe for production. So when it comes to perspective drawing, you're trying to show something as the human eye perceives it in the visual world. So there are three different ways or three common types of perspective drawings. Those perspective drawings are referred to by the technique that's used to draw them. There's 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point style of perspective drawings. You can see that all of them are different, and I'll just point out the differences if you don't see them already. So in the 1 point, the height and the width are represented by horizontal and vertical lines. In the 2 point, there are no horizontal lines. There are only vertical lines, no horizontal, and the width and the depth of the object are drawn to show depth, to show movement away from the point that's beginning the object in the front. So toward what we call vanishing points. And then with the 3 point, there are no vertical lines there. So you see no horizontal, no vertical. Everything is drawn to vanishing points. So what I mean by vanishing points? Vanishing point is an imaginary place way off in the distance that we are using as a reference when we're sketching one of these drawings. So to create, we'll start with the 1 point perspective. To create the 1 point perspective, what you need to do first is just kind of set up your drawing on a piece of paper. So I would take a piece of paper, I would draw a line across the top, and that's our imaginary horizon. Think of it as you're looking over a field and you're seeing the edge of the horizon where the land meets the sky. That is your horizon of the scene that you're drawing for your part or your product or whatever it might be. Somewhere along that horizon, you're going to draw a vanishing point. So you'll just make a point on that line, and all of the depth lines that you're going to draw are going to go toward that vanishing point. So in a 1 point, you have 1 point along that line. Those other styles, you might have 2 or 3 points along your horizon line. So here you can see a couple of examples. So in these examples, you have that horizon line across the top of the page. And then you can see how the sketch of the 1 point perspective, the height and the width of everything is shown by horizontal and vertical lines, but the depth is all going back toward that vanishing point. When you're making this type of a sketch, you may not be doing a whole lot of measuring, but it is important to keep in mind the proportion of height versus width in different aspects of your object. So making sure that you keep things proportional even though they all get distorted as they go toward the vanishing point. So the depth is a little bit more difficult to manage, but once again, you're not measuring, you're just trying to make it look proportionally accurate to what you want to communicate. So the 2 point perspective is different in that there's 2 points, 2 vanishing points. So you can see there's no horizontal lines here. So if we look at an example, here's a printer that's drawn to 2 vanishing points. So when starting a drawing like this, I would start by taking your 2 vanishing points that are up at the top. So we have our vanishing point, maybe that represents the depth of the object for this, because I would say that this is the depth of the printer. Our vanishing point over on the right represents the width of the printer, so you can see all the lines that represent the width of the printer are being drawn toward that vanishing point. And then the height is just represented by vertical lines. So this type of sketch is almost the same as the 1 point. It's just that the width isn't being drawn horizontally, it's drawn back to a vanishing point. So it's a little bit more challenging. We're not going to mess around with 3-point perspective because this isn't an art class. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, though I do want you to know how to create them. To create a 3-point, you would actually put a point down on the bottom, and that would be a vanishing point that you would use for the height. So if this were a 3-point instead of a 2-point, your height would get drawn toward that vanishing point. And that looks like a kindergartner scribbled on it, but hopefully you get the idea. So here's another look at the 3-point perspective from kind of a basic block type drawing, and it gives you a view of the object that's kind of like a bird's eye view, so you can see that the way that all the dimensions are distorted because of depth. So once again, you're going to have some perspective drawings to create from your textbook, so go ahead and do your best on those. And once again, if you have any questions, please send me an email. Good luck on your sketches, everybody.